There's one interview question that sounds incredibly easy to answer, but catches a lot of candidates out and usually means that they've lost the interview before it's even properly begun. And that question is, why do you want this job? Most candidates will answer this question from a candidate perspective, and this is where they make the big mistake. They're not actually thinking of it from a hiring manager's perspective, and this is where you can really turn the interview around if you know these pro tips. So if you're interested in finding out more about how best to answer this question with me, Pira, an ex-recruiter and currently a hiring manager within consulting, then please stay tuned for more. So what hiring managers are genuinely looking for is if you've read the job description, how your past experience and current experience is aligning to this job description, and what value you can bring to their organization. So in a nutshell, hiring managers and recruiters are trying to find out whether you understand the role and whether you are a right fit for their organization, and more specifically to that role. So I'll talk about the 3 common mistakes that people make when answering this question. So the first is being too generic. Say you are applying for a project manager role, saying I really enjoy being a project manager and working within the tech industry is way too vague. Hiring managers and recruiters want to really find out what specifically within those roles that you like and what specifically within the tech industry that you're enjoying working in. Is it AI, for example, or is it the cloud environment? Tell us specific areas of interest, and ideally this answer should align to the sector that the current company you're interviewing for lands in. What this shows is that you're going to be a long-term investment for recruiters and hiring managers. What it usually means is if you're passionate about that sector, you're going to come in with your A game. You're intrinsically going to enjoy working in this environment, and that enjoyment will then overspill into the work that you do and your colleagues. And though it might not always be the case, in theory, most people get into certain sectors because they really enjoy it and thrive in those environments, and they're genuinely curious how the industry works and the growth within that industry. So it's really critical that you show this passion and enjoyment within your interview process. The second thing that I see candidates making a mistake over is just leaving the question at what interests them in the role. What they tend to overlook is what the job description requires of them, really aligning it to saying, I know that you're specializing within the cloud environment and you're looking at Google Cloud platforms. Specifically, I know that year on year, you've had 20% growth within this platform. And we've actually had similar ambitious targets in my previous company. I raised the GCP sales from 10% to 12% last year, and these are the ways in which I delivered that. What this shows is that you've not only understood the role, you're understanding the trajectory of where the company is headed and using your past experiences to then align with that. So this is the winning trio that companies are often looking for. They want to know how you are harnessing your own interests and your own experiences to come and further their own ambitions and goals within their company. They might make reference to the cost of living crisis in the UK and saying that they're not being paid on the same level as their peers. Whilst this might be a really good personal ambition to have, and that might be the main reason why you're applying for roles, what companies want to see is that altruism, how you're expecting to help them achieve their roles. That whilst that might be a tertiary reason for them in terms of keeping you from a retention perspective, this shouldn't be the answer that you lead with. What you really want to say is that you understand your own skills and you know your own strengths, and that you realize that there is a weakness within the company that you're applying for, and that you will come and be a team player and be able to bridge that gap. So it's so vital that when you're answering these questions that you're looking at things from a holistic perspective, and a holistic perspective for the company. So you're looking at what they're trying to achieve from a company perspective, but then also looking at where their gaps might lie and how to bridge that. So now that we've looked at the common mistakes, let's look at some of the strong. So a good answer would look at why you want to apply for that company, what key strengths you bring to that role, and thirdly, why you fit that role. So in terms of why that company, you can say things like, I understand that you're entering the top 10 position within the industry. And with my experiences at company X, Y, and Z, I know that I can contribute to this ambition and be a market leader alongside my colleagues and peers to deliver X, Y, and Z ambition. Within that answer specifically, what you're trying to show is that you're genuinely interested in them as an organization. This is not just a 50th interview that you're doing and you're desperate to get a role so that your pay increases. What you're trying to show is that you're genuinely brought in to their ambitions as a company. The second thing people are interested in is why that role. So what you want to really think about is the job description, as we mentioned, but also look at the essential skills that they want to have in that role and the desirable skills. If you are able to show how you have transferable skills and direct skills in your current or past experiences, please bring that to the foray. Essentially, what you want to say is, I delivered X, Y, and Z in my previous companies and I thoroughly enjoyed it. And here are the ways in which I delivered this. Once you've picked one or two key achievements, you want to say is, currently in my role, I've done X, Y, and Z, and then use the STAR technique: situation, task, action, and result, to actually prove to the interviewer and the hiring manager how you were able to achieve these things. By letting people see the workings behind how you've achieved things, what they can then see is that you can actually transfer these skills. And especially with the rise of AI, etc., people are a little bit skeptical of whether people can actually deliver the things that they say. So by using the STAR technique, what you are able to show is a roadmap of how you've been able to achieve the great things that you have within your last role. What you might then say is, I've achieved the full potential in this role, and now I'm applying for, say, a manager role, where, say, you are informally coaching 2 to 3 employees. You're now wanting to formalize it and take on a manager position or a senior analyst position where you can formalize some of these responsibilities as you've enjoyed it so much. So here what you're showing is not only the workings behind it, but why you are now able to take that next step. Say you've worked for a multinational company before and you've managed to get promoted within 3 months or 6 months. If it's a similar company that you're applying for, then highlight this and say, I really thrive in a fast-paced environment. I've been able to get promoted within 6 months within the quality engineering team because I was able to upskill myself on skill 1 and skill 2. Then you're able to portray to the company that you're able to slot in quite easily to their organization. What you're trying to do is take the risk out of being hired. So what people want to see is that they're going to go through the painstaking process of going through CVs, interviews, etc., and they want to hire someone and then not have to think about the hiring process again. Because actually, when you think about it, taking on the hiring process really takes a lot of time out of people's day, looking at CVs and interviews and then comparing this and doing a wash up around it. It can be quite a lengthy and stressful process on top of the day-to-day duties of a hiring manager and a recruiter. So what you want to be able to portray in your interview is there's the confidence, the calmness, and the experience within your hands to be able to be hired. Especially if you're a graduate, I understand that you might not necessarily have that direct experience, but what you can then do is use experience of where you've managed a group at university for a group project, for example, when you've shown leadership in that group, or you've shown exceptional organizational skills that's led to you guys getting a first or getting recognized within a competition. These are all characteristics that you can bring to an organization and say, I am able to work in a fast-paced environment because I was able to deliver a project within 3.5 weeks with 2 people going off sick. And this is the way that I've done it. And again, using the situation, task, action, result, STAR technique, that you possess the transferable skills to work in the organization. What the companies want to see is that you as an individual can take on their environment and flourish and thrive in it. So whilst it might not be a direct fit, what you are able to say is, I understand how your company works. And you can get that through following people on LinkedIn, looking at the website, looking at YouTube videos or TikToks or Instagrams that these companies put out, the culture and how they operate, and then be able to bring that answer into that interview, but then also match it with your own real life experiences. So in a nutshell, when you're answering this question, what you want to do is spark thoughts in the hiring manager and recruiter to show them that you are the natural fit for this role and that they can see you operating in this role and working alongside your colleagues to deliver things that they need. So it's almost an audition for the part of the role. So when you leave that room, you want to make sure that they envision you in that specific role. So as ever, there's a homework section for you, because what I really want you to do is nail this answer. And though some of you may not even have interviews right now, what I would love you to do is find a dream role that you would love to apply for, and answer the question, why do you want this role? And for that role, I would like you to think why that company, why that specific role, and why you fit. Make sure you take some notes and jot that down, and then record yourself answering that question, and then sharing that with a family member or a friend and seeing whether they think that you've hit those 3 points. Why the company, why the role, and why you fit, and whether they think that that is a strong answer. If you find that there are gaps in terms of your understanding of the role or some experiences, go back and fill those gaps. Take 10 to 15 minutes to really bridge that gap. If you're not understanding the role or the company, go and spend half an hour researching the company, understanding what it is that they do. Try and even get a coffee conversation with someone who works within the organization doing that specific role, so that you can be really inspired to have a strong answer for this question. And then the last bit is to keep repeating this process. The more and more you research into these companies and getting an understanding of the industry or the role, then you become much better at on the spot answering why you say you want to be a project manager or a graphic designer. What you'll find is that there'll be common reasons as to why you want to do this specific role, but what you want to then be able to do, as I always say, is tailor it. So if a company is in a fast growth period or growing into a certain market, what you'll then be able to say is, yeah, I've had a month experience working in the Middle East, for example, and I know that's a big growth area for you. So I can bring the skills of me being on the ground there for 4 weeks for this role, specifically understanding clients, specifically understanding the oil and gas industry in the Dubai market, for example. So the flavorings of it will change, but the common reasons you'll have at your fingertips, which takes you halfway to already answering the question. So I hope you found this video useful and that you understand that this question is really trying to find alignment between the role itself and your ambitions. If you found this video useful, please do subscribe, like, and comment. Any questions or any suggestions for future videos. Also, if you know someone who's struggling with the interview process, please do share this video with them. And thank you so much for your time, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.